This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Okay. So cancel or keep AI generated music.
Cancel.
Remakes and reboots of classic movies and TV shows. Cancel or keep.
Keep.
Award shows.
Cancel.
Concerts where artists ban phones.
Keep.
Brands using memes to market their products.
Keep.
Going cashless.
Keep.
4-day work week.
Keep.
Astrology.
Cancel. Get it out of here.
All right. Well, guys, that was Patrick with me today. He is our guest, and we were just playing Cancel or Keep, so we just got to know a little bit about him. He likes to be cashless, but does not support astrology.
Can I ask you a question? Are phoneless concerts a thing?
I don't know. I've heard artists complain. I know that Coldplay has like moments where they don't want phones and they ask people to put away their phones.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know, like if I feel like more artists are doing that because the amount of phones that people have at concerts is kind of going out of hand.
It's insane. But like I'm a big golf fan, and like the Masters tournament, they don't allow anyone with phones there. You have to literally lock it in a locker as you get onto the grounds there. And like people that have been there talk about how it's the most incredible, surreal experience, and they wish that there was more situations like that where we had to like physically get rid of our phones and force ourselves to enjoy the moment. And I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm 80/20 because I get the vibe of being like in the moment, and I am totally for that. But there's like a small part of me, that 20%, that's like, but what if I want to rewatch these videos? I didn't
It'll
record
never
it. You
it'll
know?
never be as good. How many times have you watched recordings of a concert? It's terrible.
Yeah, they're never good. Like a
Never
couple.
good.
I honestly like, and they take up a lot of space from your phone because you're recording
Totally.
a lot. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
4 minutes of like that person singing, and the audio is not even very good. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
And you're just picking up the person singing next to you, which is like way worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, fine. I'm convinced. Weeks of the band phones.
It's productive.
All right. Well, guys, welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. This is where we discuss marketing and business tips, and we help assist you guys in your business journeys. You all know who I am. I'm the host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. And today I'm joined with a very special guest, Patrick from AdVenture Media. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Daniela.
Well, we've gotten to know you a little bit already, but for those watching who don't know about who you are, what you do, Adventure Media, tell us all about yourself, everything we need to know. Floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you for having me. This is exciting. So AdVenture Media is a digital advertising agency. We are headquartered in New York, but we also have offices in Philadelphia and South Florida. Our team is around 40 full-time employees. We have a handful of partners and freelancers that work with us as well. And we are still, I would consider us a more boutique agency. We've been in business for 11 or 12 years. So Isaac Radansky is our founder. If any of your listeners have ever stumbled upon, if anyone's ever really gone into Google AdWords training or Google Ads training in any capacity, you've probably come across some of Isaac's content or something from our company at some point. I started working with Isaac in 2015. He founded the company, and there was like 3 or 4 of us at the time in really just like a glorified freelance capacity. And once we came on board, Isaac was really into creating content, educational content, how-to videos, specifically with Google AdWords at the time. And his vision for the company was to produce a lot of great educational content. It would be really valuable for a lot of people. They would get a great exposure, and then we'd be able to drive inbound leads for the agency that way. So he set out and started doing that. And the background of it, he sort of like accidentally stumbled into an agency because he like started putting out this content and people saw it and were like, wow, that's really valuable. And I'm too busy or whatever to like actually do this work. So let me just call that guy with the green beanie. He seems to know what he's doing. Let me hire him to do it. So that initial course that Isaac put out in 2015, sort of like put us on the map, brought us a lot of great opportunities in business, and we grew slowly but methodically and expanded the team, uh, one at a time, very, very like deliberately over the course of the last 11 years. And that was great because we had a handful of other competitors at the time in 2015, 2016 that started around our time and they blew up and they had 100 employees, but they did so by cutting a lot of corners, taking on a lot of bloat, not really doing things the right way. And we've taken a different approach. And it really benefited us when COVID lockdowns hit and the market changes and ATT like turned meta advertising up on its head. So all these different things, we've been pretty resilient over the years because we've been lean and efficient and had a really cared about producing high quality work with really great talented people. So a few years ago, as the business was continuing to grow, we hit an inflection point where we wanted to take another step in the direction of more growth, more strategy, more vision, more process systems, all the other things that like larger companies have, but also not lose our roots, our culture, and our education. So that was when I stepped in as CEO, and now Isaac is still involved with the company. He did a lot of our marketing, does a lot of our sales stuff, works directly in the office. It works in the office directly next door to mine. And he now focuses on developing training content. So we have the AdVenture Academy, which is a learning platform with a host of different courses and free content and calculators and budgeting models and all these different things for marketers to be able to use to be able to become better marketers. That's sort of been our roots, our ethos from the very beginning. And it's something that over the last year and a half, we've refocused to be able to deliver that at a larger scale. So that's kind of the background. And now, like I said, like we're about 40 people, 3 different offices. We are paid media, I would say, is kind of our core focus. We are strategy and execution. And I would say more so on the strategy, the consultative side, more so than a lot of the different execution. We're sort of moving a little bit away from that, just depending on how the market is moving. And our team likes to, we don't specialize in any industry or size client. And what we do is we like solving complex marketing problems. So brands come to us and they might not know what their budget should be. They might not know what their goals should be. They might not know where they should be investing their budgets. They might not know what their creative messaging should be. So we sit down and we lay it all on the table and we help them understand how to deliver a real growth plan based on short-term milestones and long-term goals, and then be very practical and transparent about all the different things we need to do to get there. And then we'll kind of take the accountability to manage a lot of those projects. So the business has changed pretty dramatically over the last couple of years, but it's a lot of fun, and I love the people I work with. And yeah, it's been a great ride, and very optimistic for what the next stage of marketing looks like. I think that's what brings us here.
I think what was really interesting about what you just said is how much you've adapted to so many changes. Um, COVID was a very interesting time. I don't think that it was also so unpredictable. I think in business, you always want to predict what's going to happen. Always on podcast, one of my questions is always like, oh, how do you think marketing is going to change in the next 5 years? And I think in 2019, 2018, when we're all just living our lives, nobody would have been like, oh yeah, we're having a pandemic soon, so everything's going to change. And a lot of business struggled to sort of keep up with it. And I think we saw also some businesses thrive because they thrived out of like the sort of like fully online remote model that had become more popularized. Um, what was really interesting for me to hear you talk about was how you guys were sort of adapting to it, because it was not just the business aspect of it, but marketing itself changed a lot, I feel, post COVID. And things have kind of gone back to normal, but I feel like the world just I feel like the world was a way before COVID and it was a way after, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I think it was actually a distraction in a lot of ways because there were a lot of other macro variables that took place. And a lot of people look at change and they blame the pandemic or credit the pandemic, depending on if you're a pessimist or an optimist. And they look at whether it's e-commerce or if it's the rise of digital advertising or if it's competition or a number of different things that have happened. And they say, oh, well, it's because of stimulus checks and people being stuck at home. It's like, well, if you really think about it, like that was 5 years ago now. And it was a long time because we experienced it, but it was kind of a blip in the radar. What really happened was that there was a fundamental shift in consumer behavior that happened to be disrupted dramatically during that time period, where a lot of businesses shift and there was a lot of VC money that flooded a lot of brands and a lot of different dynamics that took place here. But it certainly wasn't the only thing that changed the course of marketing. I would argue that the real thing that changed, it's been happening not just in 2020, but it's really been happening since 2012, 2011. And it's really just change happens so slowly that we don't fully understand it. But it's just the overall evolution of digital marketplaces and how consumers make decisions in the modern economy. Finally woke up in a world where we have instantaneous access to unlimited choice and unlimited options and information to make decisions for every little thing that we do. And so how do consumers do that? And it's like, oh, well, we've been doing this for a while. It's like, we really haven't. When I started doing this, even before the pandemic, right? Like 2019, the beginning of 2020, I was still yelling at clients to develop a mobile first website. Like this was not that long ago that like half my clients did not have a mobile website. And a lot of them were saying like, oh, like people don't buy things on their phone.
Yes, I do.
Right. Like this was a real thing that like real businesses, real clients, real brands were saying just a few, it feels like a few days ago, even though it's 5 years ago now.
No.
And it was like, how many times do you hear like, oh, well, real purchases happen on desktop. So maybe people will browse on their phone, but a real purchase happens on desktop. So if I'm sitting there saying like, listen, our mobile conversion rates suck, you need to invest in a real, like you need to convert your business to Shopify because they have a real mobile checkout experience. And Shopify is the second most familiar checkout experience behind Amazon on the internet. And that's why it's worthwhile, the return on investment there. And you're like, well, no one's going to buy expensive furniture on a phone. No one's going to make business decisions from meta advertising. These things just don't happen. Like that was the stubborn mentality that so many people had. Like that now has completely changed. So like this has been a real slow progression that a lot of people look and say like, oh, well, the pandemic this, the pandemic that. It's like, no, like there are a lot of things that have changed as far as like where we are today to where we were even 5 years ago. And it's really, it's consumer behavior and it's digital marketplaces and it's competition and it's the funding level and all these different dynamics to really change the way that marketing has evolved. And I think that waking up to that is one of the most important things that marketers have to do.
That's like so interesting because I can't believe that as you know, already at 2018, 2019, we like there were still businesses that were refusing to go mobile to have like optimized apps for mobile. I mean, I think I've been online shopping since I've been on the internet.
Yeah.
Like I am obviously I'm not like one of these people that like I didn't see the rise of the internet. I kind of like when I grew up it was already a thing.
Right.
So I obviously don't have the reference of how it was in like the early 2000s and the 90s because I was, you know, one, I was not alive for one part of it, and then the other part I was super young. But still, I feel like um, I have always been in online shopping, and I can't believe that. I mean, it just keeps growing and growing. I can't believe that there were businesses who thought, yeah, online shopping is so unnecessary on phones. I mean, and it's just so much. I remember in 2018 already wanting to shop on my phone. It was easier and it made more sense.
Totally. And it's like, it's just a stubborn mentality that people have because they're resistant to change. And everyone thinks that their business is different. That's kind of the one, like everyone, oh, well, my customers are different. My business is different. That's not going to work for me. So even if you have the data, people still don't care. And that's like, look, I'm assuming at some point this conversation is going to hit on AI. So I'll just get right to it. Like the
Actually, that was gonna
pushback
be my
on
next question.
the pushback on AI is so hilarious to me
No, AI
because
is like everything now.
well, what if I told you that I lost clients, dozens of clients, because we were steering them toward AI solutions that we proved to them were more effective for their business and improved their bottom line, but they did not like it because it was different and scary. And that was a real thing. Like okay, so rewind the clock a little bit. So like I said, I started in, let's say, paid media, in like the mid 2010s. Everything was manual then, right? So I spent a lot of my time like digging through keyword reports and making manual bid adjustments and manually writing ad copy. And that was really the promise of an agency, right? Like people hired agencies like AdVenture in 2015, 2016, because you needed somebody to dig through all of these like nuanced pieces of data and pull all these different levers. And if you didn't have someone that can do it, like you'd be beat by the next guy that was doing it. So that was really our value, was saying we are going to do everything manually. So then Google comes along and says, we have all these automated tools that would now just be called AI, and they were AI, but they just branded them as automation for a different reason. Because I think they thought that people would be scared of AI. And they said, look, we have all these automated tools that are smart, right? That we called them smart gadgets back then. And they're gonna drive better performance. They're gonna save you a lot of time, yada, yada, yada. And me and everyone else that worked in the industry fought back as if we were going to war. And we all published blog posts about how Google's just trying to use automated bidding to take more of your money, and target CPA is a scam, and look what it does to your cost per click, and Google's not telling you what they're hiding this data, whatever. And it was all, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to use profanity here, but it was all bullshit. Because it was, all of us were just afraid that automation was going to replace our jobs. And so we never actually put in the time and the effort to learn how to use it properly to do the things that it was promised to do. So we all had like this sort of confirmation bias when I would run a test and say, okay, well, I'm going to show a manual CPC campaign against a target CPA campaign, and I'm going to show the results. The manual CPC campaign would always outperform, but it was because I didn't know what I was doing running the target CPA campaign. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just confirmation bias. So then our agency, this was sort of a big initiative for us. Around 2018, started to realize maybe there's something about this AI stuff. Maybe Google's not just out to get us. Maybe these solutions are actually better and they will help us do our jobs more effectively. So we leaned into it and we learned a lot about it. And at one point, I was running this test for a client where I was running what was called Smart Shopping at the time. Now it's just Performance Max in Google, but the earlier version of Performance Max was Smart Shopping. And I had this e-commerce client, and we ran these tests, and the Smart Shopping campaigns were wildly more effective, like scaling revenue at a higher return on ad spend, more than you would even imagine in your wildest dreams. But there wasn't a lot of data that came from it. And the CMO of this brand was just like, I don't like it. You have to shut it off. I'm like, okay, like, let's have a conversation. She's like, no. I don't like it. I don't like it. Google's just trying to take more of your money. I'm like, do we not believe that we're getting more money here? Like, you have more money in your bank account than you did yesterday because of this. And she's like, I don't care. You can't use it. So it pissed me off. And I sat down one day and I went to go write her an email. I was going to write it and send it to her board because I felt that she was ruining this brand by telling us not to use AI. I ended up not sending that email because that's a bad thing to do. But I took the content of it. I wrote as a blog post that was titled "Join or Die. It's time to embrace Google automation." And then someone at Google found that blog post and they were like, hey, this guy like has a good narrative here, knows what he's talking about, is talking about how like AI is good for us. Google started flying me around the world to talk at conferences about how good AI is in 2019 and 2020. Then the world shut down. I published a book by that same name, Join or Die, Digital Advertising Age of Automation, in 2020. And literally the first third of the book is just trying to convince people that AI is good. Because I would just every single day sit down and argue with people that were so convinced that AI was the worst thing to ever happen to marketing. This was not that long ago. And so I had to publish a book to tell everyone that it was better. It was basically like my thesis, that as if I was going to court and arguing on behalf of it. And now, jokes on everyone else, like it's now the coolest thing. And it's so funny to me that like I have all these people that like we used to comment on my LinkedIn feeds 4 years ago, and they'd be like, this is bad. You're just being paid off by Google. This is propaganda. Google's like lying, whatever. And those same people now are publishing like pro AI content, like trying to be AI influencers. It's so funny to me how quickly like the narrative has
Same.
shifted.
Yeah.
And it's just because like we're all insecure and marketers have such a hard time. And this goes back to what you said before. Like people at the beginning of the pandemic, they looked at marketers for guidance. They looked at their agencies and said, what should we expect? What's happening to you? What's happening out there in the world? And so there's this like pressure to like understand everything. So in 2018, when it was like, what's going on with this like automated bidding stuff, we just quickly had to decide that it was bad because we didn't have the time to really invest and learn about it. Now the narrative is just like, oh, it's great. Like we're going to use ChatGPT to write our ad copy, blah, 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 whatever. And I still feel that this is like kicking the can down the road where we don't have enough people that are having like an honest assessment of what's really happening in the world of marketing and taking a step back and being honest with themselves about what they know, what they don't know, and really digging in to learn about how to use it to their advantage. But yeah, that's my journey with AI, and the overall perspective on what I think like is very interesting about how the narrative shifts in the industry.
I think it's really interesting because I mean, what I see here is just such a kind of stubborn, I think you said this earlier, stubbornness and just kind of reluctance to accept and embrace change until it's inevitable to kind of, like I think people are always afraid of something new. And then because they don't understand it. And I think AI just it has a bad rep because when you think of AI, you think of like robots taking over the world. I feel like a lot of people have that narrative, especially if you're not educated on AI, what it does,
Mhm.
and this idea of it replacing jobs. I've had a lot of conversations with people about this. Um, and everyone says it can't fully replace jobs. Like it can replace like a subsection of people, but it can't replace everything. And I think and more so AI is a tool, like you said, right? It's gonna help you. You need to use it. You need to get that tool and use it for your own benefit, opposed to just like not using it at all or having it do everything for you. And I think that is like a kind of discrepancy that I think we kind of have struggled with. AI is very new now. What I see with it with AI conversations now is what the ethics side of it. I think I see a lot of ethical issues being discussed about integrating AI into marketing, integrating AI into automation, into streamlining process at companies. Because I think like because it's something so new, it hasn't been regulated yet. And we have seen a lot of controversies of like, I've seen a lot of artists complain that they make music, AI music with like their voice. I've seen a lot of people complain about, I don't know if you've noticed the Oscars this year, one of the actors that won, I don't remember his name, but I saw that he was very controversial because he won an Oscar and apparently he had been using AI to expand his vocal range when singing. So people were like, "Well, he doesn't deserve this Oscar because what?"
Can I ask you a question though? So like, so I agree this is a controversial topic,
Yeah.
but what is the problem? Because it really comes down to what is the point of whatever that deliverable is, right? So if it's music or if it's a blog post, right? It's art. And I think we would all like, I think that there's two like components of value that comes from any piece of art. And uh it's the avenue, the channel for self-expression of the artists themselves, which might have zero value to the rest of the world. And the second part of it is whatever it does for somebody else, right? Like, and you would say like, or whatever, I don't know, I took AP literature at one point, like true art, like real artists don't really care about whether other people find it valuable because it's like, this is my self-expression. This is my painting and I got my feelings and thoughts on paper and this is, or whatever it is. And I don't really care if it has commercial value. Um, it seems, sorry, I'm getting a little blurry here. It seems as if this whole um, debate is about the commercial product. And in that mind, we shouldn't use the word art because now we're talking about a commercial product. Because in that case, it should not matter where it comes from. If the final result is as good or better for the end consumer. So ultimately, we live in a free market society. If people vote with their dollars and their clicks and their attention spans and say, I actually prefer listening to this AI generated song, why is that worse? Because the people have chosen that it's better. Now, okay, well, the artist is losing out. Well, the artist in this case isn't really an artist, they're a supplier. So we can talk about how like, oh, well, true art is, it needs to be authentic. I'll agree with you there. But like I think we need to differentiate art and commercial intent because that's really where this whole thing gets very, very complicated. And if we live in a free market society, I don't think it's necessary to protect the art piece of it. And like just I'll give you like an example from history. Like if you look at the watch industry, uh I forget what the time it was, the early 1900s. So you look at the history of Rolex and all the Swiss watch manufacturers. They cared very much about the mechanical the art that goes into like how mechanical watches are made and designed, and they care very much about that. Now there was what's called by some to be the quartz revolution, and by Swiss art makers to be like the quartz crisis, because at some point, I don't know if it was the early 20s or I forget the timeline of this, someone discovered that you could use quartz, the metal, to help make watches a different way than they had been made historically. And so this completely turned the watch industry on its head because now all of a sudden it was cheaper and more effective for anybody to use quartz to make a watch. So all these Swiss watchmakers, their business model was completely ruined. But okay, well, that's because we commoditized it. But guess what? Rolex is still a really massive brand that has sustained hundreds of years of branding because people still buy a Rolex because they care about the artistry within. And that's different. Like it still tells time, but it's a beautiful thing that like I don't need to explain to you. I don't have a Rolex, but let's say I did. I don't need to like sit here and explain to every person that walks by me about how this watch is better because of the mechanical artistry that designed it. I wear it because that whatever that is, that means something to me. And I think as we like kind of mature as a society, integrating AI into the products that we use every day, there will be something to be said about human only art, whether it's music or sports or artwork or writing. There will be something that we crave that authenticity to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we as a free market need to protect that because because the artist deserves it. Ultimately, that artist, if they're looking for commercial intent, they need to develop a better product. They need to develop a better song because someone else using AI will do that for them. So anyway, that's like kind of a soapbox rant there, but I think it's really important. Like we can all sit here and feel sorry for artists, whether they're sitcom writers, like the Hollywood strike, the writer strike a couple of years ago. It's like very much. It's like I have no sympathy for you if you're writing the same crappy sitcom. If you can use AI to write better content and write better movies and not just make the 400th Marvel iteration, and write something new and unique and not just regurgitate the same crap that we've seen on movies and TV for the last 30 years, I'm all for it. So the same goes for music, and the same goes for writing, and the same goes for really anything that would be used by AI. And marketing is no different because marketing is just communication. So why is there an issue if someone used an AI tool to create an ad that delivers a message about a brand or a product? I see no ethical issue because ultimately we're all trying to become better communicators. And if this is a tool that allows us to reach an audience with a better message, why should we even hesitate to use it?
Yeah. I think the thing is that AI is it's gonna keep getting integrated into society whether people like it or not. I think we're at a place where you kind of just have to accept that this is how it's gonna be. Kind of like when the internet came in, where like I think people were also scared of it and it was like, well, it's here to stay. Um, but also I think what's interesting is just seeing it from a marketing perspective. What AI is doing is just bringing in new competition.
Mm.
Right? Like you said we're in a free market society. I think that's so true. You are living in a free market society. You know, if you think of it in a more traditional perspective, nobody really has original ideas anymore. Everything is kind of like, I don't want to say everything has already been invented and like thought about, but a lot of times when you think of something, chances are someone already thought about it before too. And a lot of like those products that you see people are selling on the market, services, companies, a lot of them exist and have the idea of competitors existing just is a thing because of the amount of people that are doing the same thing. And they're all just trying to compete to like offer the best one, but they're all the same, right? Like there's a million cupcake shops down the street, and then you're just gonna pick the one that sells the best cupcake.
Hasn't
So
that
I
always
think
been the case though? Like if you look at the history of branding, most products in any category are near copies of each other. If it's cars or cereal or music, it's just all so like, yeah, it's always going to do that.
what's the difference between a Pepsi and a Coke at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
Basically,
Like
no.
it's the same thing, it's just a different packaging. What happens is I think we've been throughout like the course of time, we've been so used to the competition being human, you know what I mean? Like Pepsi and Coke, they're used to their competitor being another company that is run by people. I think now what happens is that the competition and these competitors are going to start to be AI based. There's going to be like because there are things that an AI can just do a lot faster and better than a human ever could. Um, so
So
it's
I would
gonna
say
be
though,
like a change.
the skills still matter. Um, and first of all, like, so I pay attention to um the a handful of people who are very much into like maybe they work at OpenAI or they're very much into like AGI is here and the world is going to be totally different 3 years from now and everyone's not going to have a jet. Like no one's going to have a jet, whatever. And there's like that thought, and I hear that. I don't fully believe in it, but I've heard a lot of those arguments, and I find it interesting. I'm not necessarily on that like end of the spectrum, um, but my real view on it is like any of these AI tools right now, even like whether it's a generative AI tool or if it's something that had been working for a while, like we've been using Google's automated bidding solutions for 8 years now. They're all not great because what they do, and as you learn more about AI, like you understand that what they do is they optimize for the average. So they take all of the content in the world, right? Like let's say it's ChatGPT and it's like, write me, a new Shakespeare sonnet. And it just takes all of the Shakespeare sonnets and all the people who have tried to write their own versions of Shakespeare sonnets and all this other like crap. And it'll give you like what seems at first glance to be impressive, but it really isn't. Like at best, it's like B plus work. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's like the whole, like AI optimizes for the average, which gives you as a marketer or really anybody the opportunity to be better than average. Like, and that's where skills truly matter. And actually, before I get into that, Sam Tomlinson, who's a colleague of mine, he's in the digital advertising space. He has a newsletter and puts out a lot of great content online. He put up a video where he was breaking down ads from Google responsive search ads. So basically AI generated or AI optimized search headlines. And he did this full analysis and put up this video on LinkedIn last week. And he was like, all these ads are the same. He's like, there's no difference here. They all kind of basically say the same version of the same thing because that's essentially what the AI is optimizing for. It's saying like, like this like little price, 10% off, but the other one's saying 11% off. Like we're ultimately saying the same thing. Anyone that can actually go against the AI and say something unique will probably have their voice heard. It's almost easier than it was before. But then this is my point about how skills actually matter. Because in this world where these AI tools, it democratized great work, right? Because now the barrier to entry for almost any industry is significantly lower, whether it's coding, whether it's marketing, or whether it's green writing. If you have a little bit of know-how and get to use and use a large language model, you can become good enough at a lot of these different things, right? You don't necessarily need to go to a 4-year coding school and all these different things to be able to like get into an industry now, which I think is a good thing because the more masses you get into any field, that's where the outliers will rise to the top, right? Getting more people to use ChatGPT for writing won't make us worse writers. It'll allow the better writers to use a tool to accelerate their 10,000 hours. So as an example, before ChatGPT launched, the first tool that I was using was Midjourney. And I discovered Midjourney in September of 2022, so a month or two before ChatGPT launched. And I'm not an artist, but I became obsessed. And I was like, wow, it's the first time, blank canvas. Look at all these different things I could do. And I sat for 48 hours over a weekend and did nothing but like develop Midjourney artwork. And I was like reading all these different Reddit threads and watching these videos. And I got like from Saturday morning to Sunday night, I got significantly better at producing what I was trying to create here. And then I went in on Monday morning and I told Isaac about it. I said, Isaac founded the company. His background is actually in art. He's an artist. His background is in painting. That's actually kind of how he started the company. And I told him, I was like, listen, I discovered this thing over the weekend. You got to check it out, Midjourney, go download it, whatever. I told him that at like 8:45. At 9 a.m., we had a client call. But while I was on the client call, he's like downloading Midjourney and like starting the experiment. By 9:45, that call is over. He comes to my office and says, hey, look at this thing I just created. This Midjourney thing is pretty cool. And he shows me the most beautiful piece of artwork I've ever seen in my life. It was 1,000 times better than what I had tried creating over the course of 48 hours. He spent 30 minutes doing this while also on a client call, and it was light years better than I could produce. Why? Because he is an artist. He understands photography and lighting and setting and all this other stuff that I just don't, and don't have that knack on that skill set. So he is like, we can all sit here and use Midjourney, and it democratizes who can create artwork and graphic design, but the real artists will accelerate. And the same thing goes for writing, right? Like, I'm a writer. If all of us spend 10,000 hours using ChatGPT to write, I promise you my writing will be better, because I've already logged probably my 10,000 hours on trying to understand story arc and sentence structure and dramatic effect and character building and all these other things. So I have that in my back pocket before I use the AI tool, which makes me certain that I'll be better than the next person. So that is optimism for all of us, because those that are good at creating great ideas for products or marketing messages or software or whatever it might be, AI allows you to create those things. And if you're truly good, it'll allow you to actually be great. And I think that's the thing that, like, everyone's talking about, like, doomsday, oh, we're all going to be out of a job. I disagree. I think it will allow more people to thrive in a way that has never been unlocked in the economy before.
Yeah, I mean, I just think like probably more jobs. I can't think of any job that is actually replaced by AI in its entirety. I mean, I definitely think that roles are changing.
Well, there's certainly things that are not safe. The number one, I mean, this is a real concern. The number one job title in America, like of all the job titles you have, the median or the mode, you would say, the one that comes out most common is truck driver. And I'm sorry, like, that's just not going to exist in 10 years. So that's not going to change. That's going to go. And then, like, you put it on the list, there are tons of other things that might get completely replaced, whether it's in the legal industry or the accounting industry. There's a lot of different jobs in marketing that will probably go away. And like, you don't need 30 graphic designers anymore. You can get away with one or two that use AI tools. So it will shrink a lot of the available jobs in a lot of areas, but it doesn't necessarily mean, like, look, the internet, what people get wrong when evaluating markets and in total addressable market is understanding how the pie grows over time, right? So like when Steve Ballmer at Microsoft was launching their own version of a smartphone, they ridiculed Apple's market cap, because he was like, if every single person who owns a phone bought an iPhone, it would not justify Apple's market cap today. This was in 2008, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
What Steve Ballmer failed to recognize, which was literally the reason that Microsoft took a tumble for 15 years and Ballmer was out of a job, is because they didn't realize what smartphones and the mobile economy would do for GDP and access to like, he never conceptualized that, like, at that time, it was like 11% of the US population, only 11% of the US population had a smartphone. So he didn't understand that there'd be a world where 80% of Americans and like more than 50% of people on this planet would be walking around with a smartphone. He could not conceptualize that. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people are missing with AI is like, yeah, there's certainly like a lot to be worried about for all of us, regardless of what your job title is. The job that you have today will not exist in 5 to 10 years. It might look different. And if you can adapt, it'd be great. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. But we are hopefully, and this is me being an optimist, what we are not fully understanding is the net impact that this technology might have on elevating markets, elevating GDP, allowing more industries to open up like they never did before. Think of how many people are employed by mobile first companies that did not exist before the iPhone. So that's what I'm hoping for, even though I don't fully have a lot. I wouldn't necessarily bet on it myself.
I think it would depend a lot on like lawmakers.
Yeah.
Also, I think that's gonna really affect it because technology moves on its own, but then the government moves in another way too. So like once
Right. It
it's
doesn't involve the government's all 80-year-old people.
yeah.
You have a bunch of 80-year-old people who don't actually understand technology and they move at the
Yeah.
rate of molasses. So I'm not totally optimistic that they're going to be able to initiate any change that's going to be meaningful.
I think a lot of times we see government sort of like stopping things, right? And like I think we saw it with the whole TikTok ban, the whole discussion around it. And I feel like in the grand scheme of things, I think America has bigger problems than TikTok, but also
Yeah.
just the arguments that people had, when they heard all of these senators and all these people kind of talking about it, I realized like you really just don't understand it.
They don't.
Yeah, you're having a discussion about a topic in a platform that you have no idea how it works
And,
when it yeah.
and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Like not only do they not understand it, but like it doesn't matter. Like you're
Like,
not at
yeah,
risk.
you
Like
could
there's
say
so many other things.
yeah, like, that was my whole thing was like, why are they so concerned with something so out of all of the issues that I think political issues that probably, Americans should worry about, and these
Yeah.
people who are so important should be concerned with, I think a social media app is probably on the lower number. Mm, but, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's kind of a place for us to sort of see where it changes. We're almost, I feel, going through a kind of like another industrial revolution, but technology-wise. I think it's gonna be really interesting in the coming years to see how it evolves, and it's a great note to end this on. So, Patrick, it's been great having you here, but before we end the podcast, I do wanna give you the space to plug anything that you wanna plug. If anything that we spoke about today resonated with our audience, if anybody would want to work with AdVenture or get to know you, floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniela. This is actually like this was my issue with downloading Midjourney because it's like when you have a blank canvas, what can you do? And then your mind completely doesn't have anything productive. Okay, so Adventure Media, you can find us at adventureptc.com. We're a digital advertising agency. If you're looking for a new agency, looking for a partner, looking to just follow along, read some of our content, check us out. We have the Adventure Academy. So you can find that on our website, adventurepbc.com. You'll get a link to it. There's courses on Google, on Meta, on YouTube, on overall marketing strategy, on Midjourney. We actually just produced a course on Midjourney for creatives. So check that out. The Adventure Academy is an incredible community that we're putting a lot of resources behind. Otherwise, if you want to follow me online, look me up, Patrick Gilbert, find me on LinkedIn. On my book, Join or Die, Digital Advertising in the Age of Automation. But yeah, I like to come on these podcasts because I like to try and meet new people. So I would love for anyone to reach out and what you think, and maybe we'll get into an argument on LinkedIn. And I kind of love that stuff.
Awesome. I will be adding the links to your LinkedIn and your website on to the description of this video so that people can click and find you easily. Guys, you already know the drill. Subscribe, follow, watch our podcasts. Thank you so much for being here, Patrick. It was so great to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And I will see you all on the next episode.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.